بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه أجمعين. Inshallah, we will continue our Arabic lessons. We are studying the book Al-Ajirromyya, a beginner's book in Arabic grammar and Nahu. We mentioned the different parts of speech in the previous lesson, and inshallah today we will talk about the signs of the parts of speech uh, in the Arabic language. And we'll probably just go over, we'll have enough time to go over the noun. So one of the most important things to know or to be able to do and when learning a language is being able to differentiate or distinguish between different parts of speech. What is a noun, what is a verb, and what is a particle, right? This is one of the first things that a person should do. So that is why the mu'allif, the author, rahimahullah, may Allah be pleased with him, that is one of the first, that is how he begins the book. He tells us about the signs of nouns, the signs of verbs, and the signs of particles. And when it comes to particles, it's much simpler, and inshallah we'll go over it when we get to that section. So the signs of nouns. What are the signs of nouns? The mu'allif, the author, says فَالْإِسْمُ يُعْرَفُ, and a noun is known by بِالْخَفْضِ, lowering, meaning one of the signs of a noun is the lowering, is what we call lowering. But what does lowering mean? Obviously, linguistically, al-khafd means lowering, but in the terminology of Arabic grammar, khafd means when the diacritical mark goes is at the bottom of the last letter of a word, right? At the bottom of the last letter of a word, and hence, there's a relationship between its definition and terminology and its linguistic definition, because just like how al-khafd linguistically means lowering, similarly the mark that is given to the last letter of a word goes below, is lowered and goes below the letter. And there are exceptions, but this is the default rule, that the diacritical mark goes below the last letter of a word. So if we see, so what does this mean? This means that if we see that the diacritical mark is at the bottom of the last letter of a word, that is a very good indicator that it is a noun, meaning that should tell us that that word is a noun. An example here is qalamu zaydin, the pen of Zayd. If you pay attention here, the diacritical mark is at the bottom of the dal, at the bottom of the last letter, right? And obviously, something that is assumed here is that everyone knows how to read and write Arabic alphabets. You're not required to understand Arabic, but the prerequisites for this class are that the person knows how to read and write Arabic alphabets and knows about the diacritical marks, which are fatha, kasra, dhamma, tanween, kasratain, fathatain, all of those things that we learn when we begin reading the Quran. So that is khafd. So as soon as we see khafd, meaning the lowering of the diacritical mark and the location of the diacritical mark at the bottom of the last letter of the word, we know that word is a noun. And the second sign of a noun is what tanween. And tanween is, again, you should all be familiar with tanween. That is something that we assume that you know already. And basically, linguistically, a tanween means to make a sound resonate, adding the sound of, and in the terminology of Nahu, it is adding the sound of a noon to the end of a noun. not only does it have the sound, the diacritical mark, but also a noon, an n is added to the end of that diacritical mark. So for example, if it's a dhamma, we say un with a dhamma and a noon at the end. If it's a kasra, we say in, right? Kasra and a noon at the end. If it's a fatha, we say an, a fatha and a noon at the end. So that is tanween. So as soon as you see tanween at the end of a word, that is also another sign of that word being a noun, right? So you know for sure that word is a noun. As soon as you see tanween at the end of a word, you know that word is a noun. Very easy. So the two that we've gone over so far are the khafd. As soon as you see the diacritical mark at the bottom of the last letter, whether it's tanween or not, that means it's a noun. For example, if it's even if it's a kasra by itself without the tanween, that you know it is a noun. And tanween itself, ضمتين or kasratain, fathain, any of those, as soon as you see those at the end of a letter or at the end of a word, you know that word is a noun. And the third one is, as the author puts it, وَدُخُولُ الْأَلِفِ وَاللَّامِ, and the attachment of the letters alif and lam at the beginning of a word. What we call the article, the definite articles, right? In English, the alif and lam translate to the, the, the definite article. So as soon as you add alif and lam to the beginning of a word, you're making it definite. For example, the book, al-kitab, the pen, al-qalam, right? So as soon as you see the definite article, which is alif and lam in Arabic, at the beginning of a word, you know that's a noun. Because even in English, the definite article does not come before a verb, right? In all languages, the definite article comes before a noun. So that's another sign of that word being. That's a sign of a word being a noun. The fourth one, وحروف الخفض, and the particles of lowering. Meaning, if you see a noun that precedes by one of these particles, the particles of lowering, that you know that is, if you see a verb or if you see a word that precedes by one of these particles, the particles khafd, you know that word is a noun. And the difference between the first sign and the second, the first sign lowering by itself and the particles of lowering, is that the first, you could have khafd without any of the particles of lowering. For example, when you have association, what we call idafa, that also makes the word that is at the end to have kasra or kasr 10. So that basically, that is why the author treats them separately, because not every khafd is caused by, or not every khafd is directly caused by the particles of al-khafd, by the particles of lowering. So what are these particles of lowering? The first one is min, which means from. An example that I have provided here is from the Quran. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اتَّبِعُوا الْمُرْسَلِينَ, and came from the farthest. I see from, min. I have underscored a min here, and also its translation here. And came from the farthest parts of the city a man hurrying. The second one is ila wa ila. The example again is from the Quran. إِلَى اللَّهِ مَرْجِعُكُمْ جَمِيعًا. Ila means to, and the example means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you return collectively. The third one is an wa an. An means from or about, depending on the context. An example again is from the Quran. وَقَالُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي أَذْهَبَ عَنَّا الْحَزَنَ أذهب عنا الحزن إن ربنا لغفور شكور. All praise be to God who has removed all sorrow from us. Right? Where is an here? An is here. And here there are two words merged into one. This is these are actually two words. So an is in this verse, but it's just merged into the next word. That's why you see it that it's spelled this way. However, take my word for it that an is here, and I have written the translation of that verse, and also underscored the an itself here as well. Excuse me. And the fourth one is وَعَلَى عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنْظُرُونَ. Ala means on or upon, and the example is again from the Quran. Upon or on thrones they will look, or they look. Now, so what I want to draw your attention to is what comes after these particles. What comes after min is aqsa, farthest, which is a noun. What comes after ila is lafzul jalal, Allah, and also Allah, the name Allah is a noun. What comes after an is actually a pronoun, as we mentioned earlier that the pronoun also falls under a noun, and this na is a pronoun. And what comes after ala is ara'ik, right? And ara'ik is also a noun, right? So as soon as you see one of these particles, you know that what comes after them is a noun. It's a great sign, very clear sign. And the particles continue. That was not those were not the only ones. Fi is another one. واقترب اقترب للناس حسابهم وهم في غفلة معرضون. The example, again, the example is from the Quran. Fi means in. People's reckoning is close. This is the translation of the verse. People's reckoning is close, and they in heedlessness turn away. So again, here is in, fi, and this tells us that what comes after fi, which is ghafla, is a noun. Rubba is the sixth one. Rubba rajulin jawadin laqituhu. Often or rarely. Rubba could either means often or rarely, right? It's one of those words that has both the opposite meanings. And the example is not from the Quran, and it means it is not from the Quran. Not, not from the Quran. Very important for not to confuse you with this. I rarely meet a generous man. Right? I rarely meet a generous man. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect us from stinginess. And this is not me saying, by the way. This is just an example I got from somewhere else. So, وَالْبَاءُ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. Al-ba is the seventh one, and the example is the first verse of the Quran. بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. What does ba means? Ba means by, right? By the name of Allah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. By the name of Allah, the merciful to all and the chosen. Or by the name of Allah, the merciful and the most merciful and the most compassionate. And the seventh one is, again, Bismillah. Ba comes before ism, and ism itself is a noun. Ism itself is a noun. And also, Rabba Rajul. Rajul is also a noun. Rajul means a man. And the eighth one is Al-Kaf. Al-Kaf means as or like. The example is from the Quran. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Nothing is like him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is like him. As you can tell, what comes after kaf is mithlihi. And mithlihi here is a pronoun, is a noun, sorry. Mithlihi is a noun, or mithl is a noun, and he is a pronoun. All we're concerned about is the noun here, right here. Let me actually highlight it. All we're concerned about is the noun. And if you paid attention that here, that all of these words are ending with a kasra or a tanween, right? The diacritical mark on all of these words is at the bottom. Why? Because what comes before them is one of the particles of lowering. Basically, that's what those particles do. They are agents, and they do, perform something, or they make a change. They perform an action on the word that comes after them. And inshallah, we'll talk about what it means to be an agent and the different types of agents, and in the following lessons. But just keep in mind that the reason you're seeing that the diacritical marks on all of these nouns that succeed the particles of khafd are at the below or below the letter is because exactly because of what you just mentioned. There is a particle of khafd before them. They are the ones that are causing this. And the ninth one is al-lam. Another example from the Quran: الذين يتخذون الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين أيبتغون عندهم العزة فإن العزة لله جميعا. Right? Lillahi. Lam means belongs or for. And in our example, this is where lam shows up. And again, lam in this example is attached to the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why you see it this way. However, as in the previous cases, you see that there's a kasra, meaning the diacritical mark is at the bottom of the last letter. And basically, the verse that we recited translates to, indeed, almighty and glory belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Basically, the verse was long. I couldn't fit it in the slide, so I just translated the last portion that includes the letter of lowering, or the particle the particle of lowering, or the particle of khafd. 6. So and inshallah we'll conclude with this وحروف القسم. And these are the last particles of khafd or lowering that the author mentions. وهي, what are the huruf al-qasam? These are the particles of oath. And they are al-waw. Waw is one of the particles of oath. And if any of these come before a word, you know that that word is a noun. Wat-tini wa-zaytun. Wat-tini wa-zaytun. This is from the Quran. And Allah Azza wa Jal is swearing by the fig, by the fig and by the olive tree, by the fig tree and the olive tree. And as those of you who know this verse know that the diacritical mark at the end of these words is also a kasra. It is at the bottom of the letter, right? And al-waw, an oath, is usually translated to by Allah, right? Used to swear by all nouns. So one of the things about al-waw is you can use it to swear by all nouns. Whether it's haram to do it or not, that's a discussion of aqidah. Obviously, it's haram to swear by anything, to not swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's a different discussion. But linguistically, it is a particle that is used to swear by any noun. So that's why. But for Allah, it's a different story. So for Allah, because He's the Creator, He can swear by anything that He wants. So in this verse, Allah swears by wat-tini wa-zaytun. He swears by the fig tree and the olive tree. Right? I hope that's clear. Inshallah, if you have any questions about this, put them in the comments and I will explain. But just in a nutshell, al-waw is a particle that can be used to swear by anything. Right? That is why in this verse, Allah Azza wa Jal is swearing by at-tin and az-zaytun. Allah Azza wa Jal is teaching us that waw is a particle, and linguistically in Arabic language is a particle that can be used to swear by any noun. However, as we said, whether for us as human beings it's okay to do it or not, that's a discussion that inshallah we'll go over in our aqidah class. And then the second letter particle of oath is al-ba. Billahi la ukrimaka. By Allah, I will be generous to you. I write used to swear by nouns and pronouns. So meaning you could use you could say bihi la ukrimaka, meaning by Allah, by him, by you can use a pronoun and say by Allah I will be generous to you, or you can you know uh, or you can say the name of Allah itself and say billahi la ukrimaka, by Allah I will be generous to you. So you can use both the pronoun, you can swear by both the pronoun of Allah and also the name of Allah. Both will work. That's one of the qualities of al-ba. You can use ba to swear by the pronoun of Allah and obviously the noun of Allah, the noun Allah itself as well. And at-ta, tallahi la akidanna asnamakum. This is the last letter particle of oath, and the example that we gave is from the Quran, and it means by Allah, by God, I shall devise against your idols. Excuse me. And this is used to swear only by Allah. You cannot, ta linguistically cannot be used to swear by anything other than Allah. And if it's used to swear by anything other than Allah, then it is a grammatical mistake. It is a grammatical mistake. Again, please don't, hopefully there are no people hopefully you're not amongst them, but I hope that no one will take these statements that we just made and make an aqidah video out of them. We're talking about language and linguistically whether it's permissible or not. And when it comes to aqidah, that's a different course, that's a different lesson. Inshallah, we'll have aqidah classes as well, in which we will talk about these things. Okay, so inshallah, please let's put things in context. Now, inshallah, we can stop here. In the next video, we'll go over some examples. And I want to mention this as well. So the following videos will all be from last year. Basically, they will be the videos that I had recorded during one of the classes that I was teaching some of the brothers. So up until this point, the videos were not recorded, the lessons were not recorded. So I went ahead and I recorded them, and inshallah I will upload these. However, going forward, the videos that you will see are not from even last year, from 2 years ago. However, they're basically we're going over the same book, and we're talking about the same material. So so inshallah, it will be benefit of to you. And if it is of benefit to you, please share these videos and encourage people to support the channel by subscribing and by also liking the videos. We plan to provide many more classes as well. So with your support, inshallah, we will be able to do so. Jazakumullah khairan, and inshallah we will continue, or you will see me 2 years ago continuing these lessons in the next video. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.